The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh man, am I glad to see you people. Seriously. It's Tuesday night, May 28th, 2024. It's 11:01 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8:01 p.m. on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:01 in Sydney, Australia, and here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis, it's 10:01 Central Time. Yes, 10:01 Central Time. And the reason I added the '01 tonight is because we ended up starting a minute late because of a little technical glitch we had. Nothing major, but we missed the 5-minute countdown. So anyway, and I'm sure you care. So why am I glad to see you? Because I'm having surgery on Monday, and I've learned something. I'm having hip surgery. What I've learned in the last 2 weeks is that my hip doesn't really bother me if I don't walk. And so I spent basically 3 days of the weekend, the entire 3-day weekend, basically sitting in a chair. And it's the most sedentary I've ever been in my life, and I hate it. I just hate it, but no pain, I gotta say. And even let me see, was it Saturday or Sunday? I actually went to the supermarket for a few minutes, and I walked around, and not bad, you know. But that's because I'm not walking around. That's the reason. I mean, I learned how to deal with this. So on Monday, I'm having hip surgery. They're replacing it with a little ball or something. I don't know what the hell they do. And so I'm going to be out now. This is the schedule here for the next week, 2 weeks. We got a show tonight. Got the month in review panel. 2 of the 3 of them are here, and I've been watching Larry on the little preview screen, and I think he's smoking a cigar or something. I don't know what it is, but there's smoke everywhere. Yeah, yeah, he's looking at me right now. It's a cigar. Uh, so we got the monthly review panel tonight. David Strom is joining us from hotair.com on Thursday night. And people are probably thinking at this point that I shill for them. I don't. We just have a lot of people. I know a lot of people there. They're really cool people. They're very interesting. So we had Ed Morrissey on last week, and David's coming. He's going to be our final guest before our operation break. And then we're taking 12 days off. We're taking the entirety of next week off for the surgery. I have the surgery on Monday. I should be up and running by Wednesday. They're telling me I should be. We'll see. And then we're coming back on Monday, June 10th. So and rah rah for the summer. Queers for Palestine. So normally at this point, I put up the Conk front page, Conk News. I'm not going to show you the page tonight because it screws up the video queue. We got a lot of people coming on. So if you go to conk.com, that's CONK.com, you will see the best single news aggregator on the internet. I'm not kidding. You got to check it out. 75 news sources, all the news they get new news every 3 hours. It's all chronologically laid out through the wonders of technology. It's basically a one-page website, and you don't have to register, and you don't have to sign in, or you don't have to pay to see it. It's completely free. They run some ads on that page, yeah, but it's completely free. It's the closest thing you're going to get to an old-time newspaper ever. That's the way I look at it. And, I still kind of miss the things. I was just thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about these Conk commercials, about the fact that basically the only time I buy a hard copy newspaper anymore is when I'm getting on an airplane. I refuse to pay for that goddamn Wi-Fi. I think there's some airlines now that are making it available for free. Maybe, I don't know. I just refuse to pay. So, I pay $4 for Wall Street Journal. Get on the airplane, I'll read it. And the thing I miss about the hard copy newspapers is you have a giant freaking interface. You open the page, and it's like 30 inches across. I don't have a monitor that big, and I don't think you do either. You know. So, at any rate, check out Conk. If you're a news junkie, you'll absolutely love it. Use it all the time. I use it to prepare for these shows. It's great. It's fantastic. It's at conk.com, conk.com. So we're waiting for a third party here, and I think it's Don Zorro. But that said, I'm gonna play 12 seconds of bumper music, and Alex Cade does fantastic work. He's done all the graphics for the show. It's just terrific. And we'll put the two guys on, and we'll go from there. How's that sound? Sound like a plan? I think so. Yeah, I think it's. It's a plan. Look what we got. Larry.
Yeah.
Larry, you didn't smoke. I assumed it was a cigar, but I had to. Yeah. Hey, Tim Conaway. Hi.
Hi. How you guys?
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing swell.
You are, aren't you?
I didn't have to listen to 5 hours of closing arguments today.
Oh, what was that?
I said I didn't have to listen to 5 hours of closing arguments today. So.
Oh no, you didn't. No. And apparently the prosecution took up 4 of the 5 hours and they said nothing. Supposedly, I don't know.
Oh well, they've already done an excellent job of confusing the hell out of the jury.
Yes, they have.
Which is usually what the defense does.
Yeah.
To try to get a mistrial, but they had to do that because the charges. The one charge is very simple. That business documents were fraudulently. They did fraudulent business documents, which in this case was, instead of writing checks to Michael Cohen to repay the loan, they said that they were it was for legal fees, and that in itself is a misdemeanor. But to make it a felony, it has to be
tied to another crime.
Yeah, right. It had to be in conjunction with another crime, which in this case they're saying is election interference. So that's why they went to all this trouble to try to, all this other stuff to try to tie it into that. And, it was no connection there at all. And then, it just confused the hell out of these people. So I expect them, usually in a hung jury, the judge makes them go back and reconsider. So when they first come back to him late tomorrow and say we can't come to a conclusion, he's going to say, "Oh no, keep at it." So this will probably be, stretch into Thursday or something. But
I have to ask you, Tim. I got to ask you, and I was thinking about this. This is purely speculation on you guys' part, but I'm assuming it's going to be hung jury, but I'm assuming that 1 or 2 people were going to hold out for, like, quote unquote justice, and everybody else was convinced Trump. And I'm starting to think that maybe it might be the opposite, that the majority of the jury might want to quit, and you'll have a minority of people that want to convict Trump. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I don't. I think they'll be confused about what it is they're supposed to do. And, the first time they take a poll, it's going to be fairly evenly split. But the next time, they poll themselves, it'll be different people feeling different ways. What the actual final numbers.
We'll never know, and that's why it's speculation, right?
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's probably going to be a 10-2, one way or the other.
But I think we should ask Larry. Larry, do you have feelings?
Oh, I got a lot of them on this one.
Okay, go ahead.
I really think the New York State Judicial Court is allowing this thing to go and not to pull the judge off of this case because they can see that there's no way there's going to be a conviction. I mean, Cohen told his own attorney way back when this was going on, Trump didn't have any idea what was happening. So he billed him for, legal fees. They paid it, not knowing this was happening or what the billing was for. So that's what the testimony was. And the one-sidedness of this, the defense witnesses were not even allowed to testify to the facts of the case. Now, when the judge won't allow the defense witness to testify to the facts of the case, there's something wrong in Denmark somewhere. And it's just such a ridiculous trial. I'm surprised the judicial authorities in New York haven't stopped it already, but I think they're seeing that this is a no-go case, and they're going to go ahead and let the jury come back with a not guilty, and then they're going to maybe censure the judge at that point.
Larry, do you
Quietly.
Larry, do you actually think they could come back with a not guilty verdict?
I think it's probably a 10-2 not guilty. But I mean, they haven't even come up with a crime yet.
No, they haven't. No, apparently now I'm watching
the
Fox
prosecution
News,
didn't
and
even
they're
put on a
biased.
case.
I don't know what Conaway saw, but the people at Fox News said they never mentioned in the closing arguments. They never mentioned what the other crime was. Now I don't know if they mentioned it during the trial proper, but they never mentioned it during the closing argument.
They've not mentioned it through the trial. They're going to let the judge instruct the jury on what to do, and we'll see where that goes. But the ridiculousness of this whole trial, there was absolutely no purpose in letting Stormy Daniels testify because she had no information on the elements of the crime to testify to. It was strictly a frivolous attempt to make Trump look bad. That's all she was there for. And the judge let her go on and on and on. But when they brought in the defense witnesses, the judge would not allow them to testify. The prosecutor objected and was sustained on every objection. When you are, this is a big, high-profile trial. But if you've ever been in a courtroom and watched what goes on in a courtroom, this is a joke.
Yeah, it is.
This whole thing was a joke. And so if they get a guilty verdict, okay, this is some real bad, something really bad for the country.
Yeah, it is.
When you can control the judicial system and get the outcome you want regardless of the evidence. Now, this is really bad.
And
so
they might
have to watch.
Manhattan is the single most liberal city in the United States. 92% Democrat.
It doesn't matter. This Republican Democrat. This was a farce.
No, I know. Don Zorro's here. I'm going to put him on. Watch this. Watch the screen go goofy. Look at
that. You're going to put me on, eh? I'm the one who puts you guys on.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. So I don't know. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How is everybody?
I guess we're okay. Newman's smoking cigars. Yeah, Conaway's in his bedroom or something. How are you doing?
Conaway's what? In his bed?
In his bedroom or something, I think.
I want to see this.
Where are you, Tim? We're in your house.
I'm in what I call the campaign room. This is
Is that the basement or?
where I plan out all of my future activities. So sit here and wonder about what Larry was saying about the trial. They didn't have anything, and this is a trial that these charges came out of a grand jury, and I believe the grand juries are unconstitutional, but the grand jury is a way when the prosecution doesn't have enough evidence to actually bring a charge on its own. They call together a grand jury where only the prosecutor asks questions. There is no
Yes.
defense attorney there. There's no cross-examination. The only evidence that's presented to the grand jury is the evidence that the prosecutor wants to have. It's a whole one-sided thing. And then they come out and say, well, the grand jury has done this indictment. So that's always a signal. And then when you get into this thing and you see, yeah, they didn't have any evidence at all, other than, maybe they could have had evidence that there was fraudulent business documents on a misdemeanor level. And but they had to do all this other stuff, dragging all this other stuff to try to make it look like, it was in furtherance of or a willful action involving another crime, and they had nothing to prove that the other crime existed. It was supposed to be election fraud or election interference or something like that, but they had no evidence of that. So yeah, this was a terrible example, and most of the nation has watched this, and you're seeing, well, this is supposed to be justice in action, our court system in action, and it's really disheartening that this can take front and center, or this could be allowed to go on as long as it did.
Yeah, well, I think that this, more than anything I've ever seen the Democrats do, does give you the best example of the old phrase, act in haste, repent in leisure. These guys put together a bunch of trials wherever they possibly could without a single thought into whether anything would work. They don't realize that Trump is a survivor, that this guy has been, he is the Mike Tyson of politics. He knows how to bob and weave. He knows how to move. He knows how to stay the hell away from stuff. The Democrats just tried to use a shotgun approach on him, and through what was it 4 different things at him, in total, and nothing is going to stick to any great result. They might get something. They say, oh, well, we've got 91 charges. Well, bullshit. It's none of this stuff is going to stick. If none of this big stuff sticks, none of the little stuff is going to go. It's just going to piss off the electorate, even the people that have been on the fence, whether it's the Democrats that can't stand themselves anymore, or whether it's the diehard Republicans. If you ever wanted to see an example of somebody just hand over an election, the Democrats have done it in royal fashion.
And
Well-
yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Well, Tim made the point a while ago that this whole thing hinges on election interference. That's the major crime that they're trying to hang on him. All right, so let's back up and look at this thing. We're talking about things that happened in 2015 and 16. Okay?
Yeah.
And we are 8 years down the road. Why has he not been charged until this year during the election?
No shit.
This is vastly more evidence of election interference than trying to go back 8 years on Trump for signing a bunch of checks that his office people brought to him to sign like he does every day.
Right.
You know, I mean, he's
Right.
got attorneys and office staff that clear all this stuff to get the checks ready, bring them to him. He sits down, signs them, hands them back, hands the stack back to him, and they send them out. That's about as much as he knew. But they waited
Right.
8 years. They waited until the middle of an election to try to charge him and bring this court case up. This is major evidence of election interference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Far
Now
from
the
what
question.
they're saying
the-
Trump did.
Yeah, but so the question is do we have enough people with any kind of common sense to get something that's better, a little better than a hung jury? Because apparently they need everybody. They need a unanimous consent on here
Yeah.
of the entire jury, right? And I'm hoping that it's not. How many are on the jury? Is it
12.
12 or 6? It is 12.
12.
I would like to see something better than 11-1. You know, I'd like to see it, you know, closer to half, maybe 7-5 or something like that. And I'm assuming the 5 would be the ones that be in favor of vindicating Trump here. But that's if they were able to get 12 people, then man, that would be collusion like has never been seen before.
Well,
Yeah.
Don, it happened in Washington, D.C. Was it Michael Flynn? You know, the
Mhm.
jury there convicted him, but you know that's like Manhattan. It's probably the most liberal city in the U.S. So it's you tell me if I got this wrong, Larry. It's what's called a nullified jury, a jury that's basically pre-biased, right?
Right.
Right.
And
that's what-
and to Don's question a while ago, I have more faith in people. I have more faith that there are reasonable people and enough of them that there's enough of them on this jury to do the right thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I have seen federal cases, and we had one in Missouri just 6 months ago, where the judge's orders to the jury nullified the jury's ability to come back with a not guilty verdict. And it was an order by the judge to ignore all of the defense's arguments, all of the defense's witnesses' arguments. And when you instruct the jury that you cannot consider the defense's arguments, then what are you left with? That's not a jury. That's not a criminal trial. It's not anything judicial in this country.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the actual instructions are tomorrow. I've been reading ahead of time what they anticipate. Because Bertrand has already talked with the attorneys about what his instructions might or might not include, and gone into some stuff like that. But even if he's straight up on this, you know, I agree with Larry that my experience with people doing jury duty is they take it seriously as a responsibility of a citizen, and to do the job seriously. You know, especially if they don't figure a way to get out of jury duty. I mean, you got a whole bunch of people who don't want to serve on a jury, don't want to spend the time or whatever, but the ones who stay with it generally try to do it right. And in this case, I don't see how that 12 people could find him guilty. And you know, and I've even thought there's a good chance for acquittal because the prosecution didn't prove the case. They didn't prove that a felony level action or crime was committed. They didn't make the connection to the election interference, which is what makes the crime a felony rather than a misdemeanor. And you know, like Larry just said, they didn't really prove that Trump intentionally did anything wrong with the business documents. So I think it's more likely a hung jury because the prosecution has just confused the hell out of these people. And, that's so people are sitting there saying, I don't know what to do. Is I can't say one thing or the other. And if I were sitting on this thing and looking at it, I would say, well, they haven't proved anything, so therefore, we have to acquit him because.
Well, I think the defense has the opportunity after their closing arguments, when they rest, they can make the motion for a judicial judgment to dismiss the case for lack of evidence of any crime having been committed.
Mhm.
Then it's going to be on the judge. What is he going to do? That's obvious to the whole country. I mean, even the left-leaning media has admitted that there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So if the judge takes it on himself to give this case to the jury without dismissing it, the judge is opening himself up to major problems.
Yes.
Well,
If there's any right to be had anywhere.
Go ahead, Don.
I am most concerned with that one juror. Is blonde. Have you seen her? There's this blonde, and she keeps holding up this can, and she keeps looking at the can during the whole. You haven't seen this?
No, I
She's
haven't
been
seen
looking
this,
at this can during the entire thing, and so finally somebody was able to find out it's this frozen orange juice. She keeps looking at it. It says concentrate, so she keeps looking. So
Well,
that's kind of what we got on the jury there, man. That's why I'm worried.
Actually, back to what Larry was talking about. It actually just occurred to me, Larry, that it wouldn't surprise me if the judge just dismissed all this, because in some ways they've already accomplished their main goal. They wasted a whole bunch of Trump's time. I mean, that was actually the primary goal here, and and it seems like they're beginning less and less concerned about actually hiding the true motives. It does seem that way.
Well, look at what could possibly happen to the judge and his family, specifically his daughter, if he allows this sham trial to go on, and it does come back with conviction. He and his family are in some deep water, because this will be top news for years, and they will be disgraced beyond belief.
Well, not only that, I keep wondering. I mean, doesn't this guy have any fear of disbarment? I mean, it's like this has been such a joke. I don't understand how he can get away with it.
Not in New York. Not in New York.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I don't think. I mean, who? Honestly, people are they're cheering what he's doing. But back to what I said at the very beginning, the Democrats screwed this up in so many ways. But the biggest thing strategically is timing. They did this way too early. And this, if they had done it properly, this should have dragged into like July, and just been at the forefront. Started a little, but they didn't do that. They started. So they're going to have Trump's going to go into full swing, full campaign mode, late June, and he's going to have all of the summer. And he's going to go traveling, and he's going to do rallies. This is his to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, hold it, Don. We do have to consider the other point of view. If he's convicted, he could spend a small amount of time. It probably wouldn't be jail, but it'd probably be house arrest. I mean, so then he can't. He could campaign from his front porch. I mean, he probably would. This guy would do it. He would set up video cameras, and he'll find a way to do it. I'm going to say it again. Trump is a survivor. Yeah.
He will find a way to do this and not get voted off the island.
Yeah. So now the first thing on my actual outline today, Tim actually just dived right into this. was the fact that I don't have to tell you the Democrats at this part are basically in panic mode because Joe Biden is not going to get any younger. But I want to read you a couple quotes that I read in online articles. This was a guy talking about Mitt Romney, and the quote was, "This isn't, oh my God, Mitt Romney might become president. It's, oh my God, democracy might end." There's that. And then there's this one, another guy. This was actually from a Democratic representative in Congress. "The election is more competitive than it should be given the wretchedness of who Donald Trump is. In a properly functioning democracy, Donald Trump should have no viable path to the presidency." And I'm starting to think, I think these people actually believe this stuff. So, I don't know if you guys saw this. Robert De Niro actually went to the courthouse today, and he's crazy. He's fucking crazy. And the thing is that everybody in the crowd knew it too. He got basically just completely booed and harassed. And supposedly the Biden administration asked him to do this. But he's nuts. I mean, he keeps saying, democracy is going to end. And first of all, has it occurred to any of these people? Donald Trump's already been president once.
Yeah, wasn't it 2016 when they all said that if he was elected, they were leaving the country?
Yeah,
but they didn't.
That's right. And then Tim, I thought of you today because one of the people in this article was talking about the fact that there's a lot of people that don't like Trump who are probably going to vote for him anyway because the alternative is even worse.
Yeah. Well, that's and again, we've got this sad situation where we've only got two viable candidates, and the libertarians picked this guy named Chase.
Yes.
He's chasing a dream, and he's saying, boy, if we can get a 2.1% of the vote, that'd be great. And I'm thinking, you're running for president of the United States and you're satisfied with getting 2.1% of the vote. This is why you people never win any election.
Seriously, what is their problem? These people cannot get their shit together.
They're just trying to make a point, and that's what they've always been about, in my opinion. They take perfectly good ideas and they just turn them into just trying to make some point, and it's a little juvenile, I'm afraid, because like Tim just said, then you got to be serious. If you're going to do something, then you got to do it seriously.
You can't think about and we've talked about this before. They're the only people, other than the Republicans and the Democrats, that actually have an infrastructure in place to actually elect a president. And they're the only. They are technically the third party in the U.S., but they can't get their shit together to save their life. It's unbelievable. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this, so Trump gave a speech there. It was the reaction was extremely mixed. He got both applause and boos.
Right.
He asked for their nomination, and Robert F. Kennedy also did. He was apparently more warmly received. But why the hell aren't why not pick him? It's like
that's why I'm saying. That's why I say they're not serious, because if they really were, then they'd go with RFK, because he's if anybody, he's the dark horse. He could at least have a slight shot at this, but to get this Chase Oliver, what the hell is his name?
Chase Oliver is his name. Yeah,
Chase Oliver. Okay. And did you? And I mean, I took a look at him, and the guy is just like on a central casting. He looks like the Saul Goodman character from Better Call Saul. That's no, it's not. Geez, I actually had a point. Never mind. I'm having my Rick Perry moment here. I can't come up with what I was going to say.
I don't know if you guys remember this. Our friend Dylord is here. He got in, and I'm going to put him on the screen as if he doesn't have a picture. Hey, Dylord, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I can't see you. Is that on purpose?
Oh, hold on. Nope. Sorry.
No.
Check this.
Dylord, put on some headphones. Then we won't get the echo.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, Dylord, you get your shit together and I'll put you back on, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay, very good. I'm sorry, where were we?
I was going back to say, when you were asking about do people really believe this, it's a basic fact of marketing, and everybody that's been in marketing knows this, 30% of the people are going to believe and buy anything that you tell them,
Yes.
regardless. That doesn't matter how ridiculous it is. 30% of the people are going to suck it down and believe it. Okay. So that's why in your polls, you always see 25, 30% going the opposite way of whatever it is. So it's just, that's what it is. And there's a lot of people that get only news they get what's on their social media feed, and that's mostly fake too. So you're always going to have that 30% that's
Are we fake?
not informed.
Hey Larry, did you guys hear the Dennis Quaid? He was being interviewed by Piers Morgan about this whole thing, and he asked him, "So what do you think of Trump?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to vote for him." And then Piers does this, "Really?" And so he says, "Yeah, I mean, maybe a few years ago I might not have voted for him, and I know people say what they say. He may be an asshole, but he's my asshole."
Well, that's what a lot of people are saying.
One of the greatest lines.
Mr. Conaway doesn't like Trump. I know that, and a lot of people don't like him. And I
People
totally
are
understand that.
People are living in over the last 3 years are living with the alternative.
That's
And
right.
They don't want this
Exactly.
to continue.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Oh, the guy without the shirt.
Yeah, it's him.
How we good doing, guys?
Look at the guns. Oh my God.
What can I
What does
say?
it
I
smell
got
like
a little
in there?
bigger lately.
Tyler, what does it smell like?
How we doing?
We're good.
Well,
We're
so
good. I
far
know
we're
you-
doing. So far we're
have you
doing
been following the
fine.
conversation, or did you just call up to show us your physique?
I opened up Twitch. I saw you guys were on. I had to come on and say hi. These are my old friends. Come on.
Yeah.
All
that's
right.
good.
I didn't want to interrupt too much, so I'll just sit back
No.
and listen.
Well, hold it, Tyler. Let me ask you: do you personally like Trump? I'm not talking about politically.
I mean, I'm more of a Joe Jorgensen kind of guy. I don't like either side. I'm more of a limited government.
Uh-huh.
One likes
all right,
heavy federal government. One likes heavy
we were
state
just talking
government.
about the Libertarian Convention. What's with these people? First of all, this guy they nominated is an avowed leftist. He's not just a liberal. He's a leftist.
Oh,
Yeah.
And he has nothing to do with limited government at all. What the hell's going on?
Oh, see, that's why I'm not voting. Don't worry
Yeah.
about
Okay. I understand.
No, I mean, honestly, I like to look at what people have to say in terms of their policies. I agree with some on the left. I agree with some on the right. It's all about what the individual has for policies. I think it's not really one to look at whether it's red or blue. They have more that I agree with. I used to date a girl that said, I asked her, I said, if there was a Republican that had every concern that you had in mind, that was aligned with you, would you vote for them? She said no.
That's right. She did say no.
I said, that's absolutely ridiculous. And she said, no, I only vote Democrat. And it's like,
Right.
lately I've seen a lot that, you either vote right or you vote left. You don't, you don't even look at the other side. Now, what's the harm in looking at the other side and see what they have to offer?
I don't know.
Or picking and choosing on other parts that, look well. But,
Yeah.
that's just
Speaking
my
of looking
part.
well, I want to point out that 30 years ago, Conaway had your physique. I just want to point that out.
I know Conaway had it.
Yeah, he
Oh, yeah.
did.
Come on, Conaway. Let's see a little flex there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Little Arnold pose. There we go. Look at that. Look at that pump right there.
Thank you.
Must have been working that out. Come on.
Shit, man.
Well,
That's
this is going to make the blooper reel. All right, so Dyler, do you want me to put you back in the queue for a while, or what do you want to do?
I mean, I'm just here to listen if that's all right with you guys. If
Okay, I
wanna
tell
pop
you
me
what.
back, that's all right, but I'll stay quiet. I know you
you-
guys were talking.
You stick around. I'm going to put you back in the queue so we have a bigger screen. But every once in a while, I'm going to put you back. Okay. All right. Sound good?
Perfect. I'll be here.
Okay. Excellent. Love you, man.
Back.
All right. Okay. So he's a cool guy. That's good. Yeah. A lot of guns there. I don't have that anymore either. I got a spot on my nose, and but you know what I do have, guys? I now have I have computer controlled lighting in here. So except I still can't get it to my satisfaction. What the hell? You guys want to know? I'm a gearhead. You
Well,
know?
what kind of satisfaction have you been getting anyway, Tim?
None. What
Jim,
do you
I mean,
thought? None.
do we
I
really
got a
want to
bad
talk
job.
about that?
I'm not like you, Don. I can't just go out and get women. It doesn't happen to me, you know.
No,
It reminds.
no.
Did you guys ever see the scene in Mad Men when they went to the bordello, and
You know,
Roger
I did not watch that show. Did
Roger
not watch it.
Sterling looks at Don Draper and says, "Jesus Christ, man! Even in here, you do better than the rest of us."
You know, speaking of movies, I got a big one that I saw last night, and I've been recommending this to everybody, and it's Hacksaw Ridge. Have you seen this movie?
Never heard of it even.
Oh yeah.
It came out in the last couple of years. Here's the premise. The guy who played the second Spider-Man is the protagonist in this. And what it's about, it takes place in Virginia and World War II. And here's this young man who wants to enlist, but he's a conscientious objector. So he won't fire a gun, and he wants to be a medic. He's fallen in love with a nurse stateside, and he wants to go and help because everybody there has helped and has served, but he's got this quandary. So it's kind of Sergeant York all over again.
Uh-huh.
But like Sergeant York, this was a real person. This fellow Desmond Doss, and it is a movie that is absolutely worth the. It's a couple hours, a little bit more than a couple of hours to see. It is beautifully acted. The script is excellent. The characters are all very believable. And at the very end, since they have some file footage of Desmond Doss and a couple of guys that were in his company interviewed at the very end. They're all old men by this point, and the interviews took place back in 2006. But I cannot recommend this movie enough. It's one of the few. It is a bloody son of a bitch because it takes place in the Japanese theater. It's he gets shipped in May of 45. So we're a few months away from the war ending, and the Japanese are desperate, and so they're trying to take this one ridge that's in Okinawa, and that's what the story is. Basically, winds up to being. So it's got a terrible title because it sounds like kind of your typical, just B war movie, but it is not. It's about a real place, real people, and it's on Netflix. So if you're on Netflix, go ahead and check that out. Hacksaw Ridge.
So can I interject here, Don? I'm kind of obsessed with American history from the 30s to the 50s, and I don't really know why. And I'm starting to wonder if one of the reasons is because maybe the country ran better simply because there were less people. And I'm not one of these people I've never been one of these globalists to say we need to, kill half the population. I've never thought this. But do you think... You guys think there's any truth to what I'm saying?
I don't know that it was
truth.
Less people. I don't think that it was about less people. I think the guys would agree in just saying that there was a consensus about what it took to run things, and there was a common sense. I mean, remember that we're living at a time where there are two things going on. There's very little common sense, and also there's an epidemic of incompetence that's going on. So you've got, I see why you say what you say, because once you start to add more and more, to any given pot, the essence gets diluted. And that's what's happening is that the essence of what is America is now becoming more diluted and diluted and diluted instead of becoming stronger. So, this whole... well, I'm not even going to go there, but
no. You
see what the other guys.
You're right. That might be the reason I think that. But you are right. Then the real question is why do we have an epidemic of lack of common sense? Where did that happen?
That's yeah. Go ahead, man.
I don't. Well, I always think there is no such thing as common sense.
You don't?
No, there's so many. There's. Critical thinking, and there's very little of that, but most people don't have things in common. Most people don't have, if you look at all the different kind of backgrounds, all the different kinds of the Southwest of America is a big difference to the Northeast of America. To have common sense, you'd have to have a lot of things in common. So just in general, I think that. But to me, that period of time is when there was a big surge in the period of time you talked about, Jim, the 30s to the 50s. There was a big surge in a growth of government power and growth of dependence on government. It's the same thing that happened after the Civil War in America. The shape of government became, federal government became much stronger and spread itself out throughout the country, particularly before the states were territories. There's a lot of federal control over that. And in the 30s, we had the Depression, so we had all of the Roosevelt, programs, and then during the war, the federal government, kind of took over. There was rationing. There was, plants were pretty much ordered to build munitions and material for the war, and people came back from the war. Came out of the war, let's say, not just the soldiers, but the citizens, disciplined to follow this government direction. So to me, the big change is in the government, and the result of all the handouts and all the cozying up, the soft pedaling of life is, that we've got all this incompetence. We've got all these people who don't have any drive because somebody else will do it. Somebody else will do it for us or do it for me. The big rise in corporate power in America started after the war, when all these companies got back to doing their thing. So the two big epics in America, the Civil War and the Second World War, led to a greater amount of federal government control and interference in people's lives.
I never thought of it that way, but you've got a really, really good point. That's really interesting. The other thing, yeah, go ahead.
But I was going to say, Jim, but perhaps the part of the reason that you posit the way you did was because it was a time when we were suffering together. Everybody was suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sense of unity for a cause like that does tend to put a positive glow on the way that we think about something that we didn't go through. I mean, I was born in the 50s. Larry, how about you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were born. We were all born in the 50s. And so we kind of, as when we really had our consciousness, all that stuff was basically over. But the people that lived through that all had a common purpose, and that was survive and defeat an enemy. And that started when? That started in 28, right? That started in 28, and then we started to grow through it with Eisenhower, and and all of a sudden here we are, we're building highways and we're building this. We were building. So when I say common sense, maybe I'm talking about common purpose, Tim. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of more than common sense.
Right, and also, Tim, I think you're taking the term common sense kind of literally. I don't think people mean it in the way you were talking about, but
Well, we say common sense like everybody should know that, and everybody doesn't know that, and particularly in the last 50 years, the amount of legal immigration and legal asylum seekers, on top of all the other people, they're even less in common in terms of our background, our experience, our education, our understanding, all of those kind of things. So, people say, well, that should be a matter of common sense. But when I ask somebody specifically about why they're doing something the wrong way, in my work experience, and they explain it to me, I realize they don't have a clue about, what I would consider most of us know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Jim,
Go ahead, Larry. No, you go ahead.
well, I'm also kind of a student of history, both during that time and before. But we go back to, like Jim said, in 28, major change in our country. Um, People had to work. Everybody was working, and you had to put food on the table for your family. Everybody was working. We came to the Second World War after we come right out of the Depression. And I'll take this moment, Don. My favorite World War II movie is To Hell and Back, and about the most decorated soldier of World War II. And the movie was the main character played himself in that movie,
Yeah.
and that was amazing part. But we come out of World War II, we go into the 50s, and we're back to working. We're back to having things a little better, but we're still working. Everybody's got to work to make a living, to pay for the things that you want and to raise your family. And so, and at the same time, there's a major push on church attendance, and the morals of the country are very high. So you come up to 1965, and we passed the Social Security, the welfare. We passed the Welfare Act, which pays people to not work.
Mhm.
Okay. And the whole purpose that Johnson made and said that he did was to destroy the black family. But it seeped over to everyone. So we start that. Now by the 90s, we got a third generation of people that don't work, don't have to, and have enough money to do whatever they want. And then we come in to the Clintons. The Clintons come in, and it doesn't matter if you're the president of the country or the president of a corporation or the owner of a small business. The man at the top sets the tone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the fall of morals and the decay of morals that accelerated through the 1990s because of the Clintons was faster than any other decade that I've ever seen in my life.
Larry,
And-
do you think it was because of him personally too?
I
that
think it
stuff?
was him personally and Hillary, the whole tribe. And that's, one of the first things they did was help their buddies, the attorneys, that enabled them to go after the tobacco companies when everybody from the 40s and 50s knew that if you smoked a cigarette, it was going to kill you. That no news there, but they opened the door for the attorneys to step in. And I've said this before. If you will look at any single part of America that is been devastated, it's because of attorneys. And I got friends that are attorneys, and I tell them this to their face.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, prescriptions. Everybody's up in the air about prescriptions, the cost of prescriptions in the United States compared to everywhere else. In the United States, attorneys are free to sue the drug companies for millions and millions of dollars just at the drop of a hat. Anytime that you've got that kind of open legal system where the attorneys can drive up the cost of everything, this is what you've got. That's just where we're at now.
I want to point out.
Malpractice insurance, is another part of that.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
medical care as well. Yeah.
Exactly. You can spill a hot cup of coffee on yourself and sue McDonald's for millions of dollars.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, but
No,
that's a major example of where we're at in this country.
don't you ever apologize, Larry. I love you. You know that. But here's the deal. Talking about what you're talking about, these are two things that happened recently that just absolutely blew my mind. So, first of all, Rudy Giuliani got sued by two women working in the election ballot counting office in Detroit for defamation and they won $178 million from one person. And then okay, I know a lot of people don't like oh God, now I had a brain fart. What's his name? The guy who runs InfoWars.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking
Him.
about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
He insulted the
That guy.
family, the Sandy Hook families,
Right.
And
Right.
okay, so maybe that was defamation. I don't know, but he basically insulted a whole bunch of people, and he got sued he got successfully sued for $1 billion for basically insulting people. I mean, and this is like I kind of don't believe. I know that Rudy Giuliani's life is financially he's ruined. I mean, even though he's not going to die, but I mean he's
it's the punitive part of all of this, all of these lawsuits that has gotten way out of hand.
yeah.
I mean, okay, if you're suing for defamation, so then basically you're suing for whatever amount of money that it would take to restore your reputation or whatever it is. Everything after that is just purely punitive.
Correct.
Now, are you going to tell me that this lawsuit is going to discourage anybody else from saying stupid things about other people? No, it is not. So it's completely useless and just the most bad faith anything that you can imagine to run up a suit to an amount like that. I don't particularly like this guy, the one that we're whose name we're all blanking on here.
Think, you know what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I'm just stupid.
Well, there you go. See, the lawsuit won. He's been erased.
Well, let's take, for example, I had someone come to me and ask about recommendations for an attorney over a situation that they had. And I went to a friend of mine who's an attorney, works for one of the biggest law firms in Southwest Missouri. They sue people for millions. Okay. I went to him and I talked to him. I said, hey, this guy's got a good case. Would you guys consider taking it? And he said to me, well, is there an insurance company involved? Is there deep pockets we can go after? I said, I don't think so. He said, well, we're not interested.
Boom.
Okay. So
yeah,
unless there's deep pockets, the attorneys don't care. And every time that they sue an insurance company for millions of dollars, your insurance on your car and your house and everything else go through the roof.
Right.
That's where it's coming from. So there again, we're back to attorneys, but it's I don't know. I don't know where we can stop it because
Alex Jones is the name of the guy we're thinking of.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know where we can stop it and if it can be stopped. That's a downward spiral that I don't see an end to.
Yeah, well, I lived in California for a long time, and there are more attorneys in California than there are people. And so anything that you do there, you get sued for. It was incredible. And then the California General Assembly was, it's only like 80 people, and I think 79 of them were attorneys. So, anything that would limit the ability of attorneys to sue other people was never going to get through that legislature.
No, because well, first, I think if I'm right, of the 100 senators in Congress, I think 98 of them are attorneys or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to put Dylord on here. Hey, Dylord, are you still with us?
Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, what do you think of attorneys?
Yeah, I mean, ambulance chasers. I don't know what much else to say. I mean,
until you need one.
You're talking about Purdue and stuff like that. I mean, Larry was right. If they can't smell blood in the water or money in the water, they don't care. I spoke with an attorney today, and they were saying, they'll help me out for free, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're just in it for money. With Purdue and stuff like that, I mean, he went you want to talk about drug problems in the United States, one of the biggest ones is fentanyl. And the biggest one being fentanyl is the majority of it is trafficked through China. They send that stuff through China to us.
Right.
And, you know, you can't really blame the people who are addicted to it. I mean, it's the same person who, you know, goes to the bar every day because they can't stop drinking.
Yeah.
But these people are addicted to these drugs that are 10, 20, 30 times more addictive than alcohol. And you get, you know, you get some people who are addicted to opioids or something. You get an athlete who's hurt, they break their leg, they need an opioid because, you know, Purdue has lobbied individual doctors to sell opioids to individuals, right? And so they sell the opioids. This person hurts their leg, they start getting better, and now, you know, they've run out of their prescription of opioids. What am I
And they
going to do
can't live
now?
without them.
They
I know people
you
that
can't,
this has
dude.
happened to.
You know,
I mean,
Right.
it's like if someone gave you alcohol for a year and a half, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, no more."
Yeah. No
You're
more.
going to
Right.
find something else.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to find something else, and you're going to go to someone else. So that's when they start going to heroin. They start going to, you know, they start stealing morphine. They start doing
I
shit
know.
like
Look what
this.
happened to Don. Like,
well, I mean, in
I'm
truth,
joking.
I mean,
Sorry.
no. But the thing is that I was actually going to speak up about this because I was going to question a little bit what Lord was saying. I've had 5 surgeries in the last 13 years,
Mhm,
and each time I was prescribed oxycodone or OxyContin.
mhm.
And I can remember very well, you know, the guy gave me just a certain amount, said, this is going to last you for a certain amount, and then that's it. You're not getting any more. He made that incredibly clear. He says, you're going to be, if you need anything, you're going to be on what do you call it? Like Advil and Tylenol. That's it. But, and I can tell you, that first withdrawal that I went through, that was some scary shit. Let me
That's what
tell
I'm
you. That
saying.
the night that but the thing is that I had the only thing I could have done was something illegal. The
Yep.
only way I would have done was to go. So I would have to have made that choice. But instead, what I did was I spent the most of one night pacing and feeling like my flesh was crawling and all that. And then eventually I just wore down, fell asleep, and that was it. The next day I didn't have the craving. That was it. So the only thing I'm going to say about all that is that there is a point at which it is a choice. You
It
either
is
can say,
absolutely a
you know,
choice. And Don, what I'm saying is that, you know, some people may not be as strong as you in terms of being able to have that tenacity or that resilience, you know,
yeah,
because
no, I get it.
some people are a lot weaker and some people get that hurt. They aren't used to it and they go, you know, let me go out on the street. Let me see if I can find something.
Yeah,
You know, I
Don,
heard of this friend of a friend who has heroin. Let me get that.
Don,
know.
I was inferring from what you said that you weren't expecting this to happen.
No, not like this, because I've never gone through anything. I've never taken any drug. Shit, I've never even smoked weed. What do you think of that?
Uh-huh.
I've never even smoked weed.
I've had my fair share of the devil's lettuce. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So you know,
Oh, I got it.
when I started going through this, it was, and I'm glad I went through it the one time because then I knew what to expect, and somehow it was less every time after that because I
Yep.
sort of knew what to expect. You know,
But
mentally I
what
was
I'm
ready.
trying to say is that some people aren't as strong as Don here.
I
Right?
got it.
So
I got you. I hear that. I
Yeah.
hear that.
and you know, they go in, they buy this shit, and the problem is that a lot of this shit is manufactured by China.
It's
And
available.
It's available. It's easy.
That's it.
I mean,
That's
what are you gonna
that's
do?
it.
What are you gonna do?
It's
Are you gonna go
available.
to the doctor and try and persuade them to give you oxycodone? Or are you gonna talk to the dude on the street who'll sell you a fucking gram for $20 of, you know, heroin? You know,
Yeah.
and it's 10 times as strong. Or you're going to go for fentanyl, and then you're going to go through fentanyl withdrawal, or you're going to overdose or something like that. I mean,
So,
Look at
single
Rush
speck of this shit.
Limbaugh. Look what happened to Rush Limbaugh. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Remember
a single speck of this stuff will kill you, man. Like,
Mhm.
so you either have to be really cautious, or you have to be really aware of who your drug dealers are. But I mean,
Tyler,
the
I
problem
want you to
is
stick
that
around I want you to stick around for a minute. I'm going to segue this discussion to and you're talking about China. So there's places in the world now that are basically trying to take over the United States. China wants to do it. I'm reading this article online today about and I can't remember where this guy is. He is a Muslim business leader in the United States, and he said, you know, he says, talking about we Muslims, Islam, we're going to take over the American government. He said, look, we did it in Dearborn, Michigan. And I didn't know this. What happened in Michigan is that 40 years ago, some city council member there referred to the Muslims in town as undesirable, and they basically said, F you, and they took over the whole city. It's like that.
Basically what's
you know,
happened. Yep.
It was spite.
what can I say about that is, you know, Christianity, the Quran, you know, the Bible, the Quran, whatever the Jewish people
Torah.
use, they're all Abrahamic religions.
Uh-huh.
You know, and in some respect, Muslims respect Abrahamic religions. However, they do not respect people that do not think the way that they do.
But try this, Lord. I don't really think this is a religious issue. It's a cultural issue.
I mean, yeah, I mean, people obviously go through like religious fervor. I mean, you could
Yeah.
look at the Crusades where people were going and killing other people for the faith of their God. You know, I mean, in 1100 AD, how are you expect to, you know, are you really going to leave your farm and go all the way to Istanbul or Constantinople or someplace you never heard of to go kill some people you've never met over a religion that you believe? You know,
think
I
it's for
think
money.
that, you know, that's obviously, I think one of the greatest parts of this country is that we have a segregation of religion and state. And I think when people mix that, it's a very big issue.
In Dearborn,
Because-
Michigan, though, just a couple weeks ago, they're having a rally and people are literally yelling "Death to America." Like, what is that all about?
And that's, I mean, the thing is like, that's a problem, obviously. I
No
mean,
shit.
obviously you don't want anyone living in America to think death to
That's
America.
the reason
But
you
you also
brought
have
that
to
up.
think,
That is a very distinct problem.
but Jim, you have to think they've lived in such a wonderful country that they've never thought that there could be another world out there.
Yes, you're right. That is also the problem too. You're correct, about
Right? Like, if I were to go to, I mean, I'll bring my ex up again, the same one who was giving me grief about, you know, oh, blah blah blah, Republican, she only votes
By the way,
blue,
you know
blah, blah, blah.
Conaway's sleeping with her. You know that.
Conaway, you know, best to you, she's a fucking bitch. I'll give you that. She only hits missionary, let me tell you. But the problem is a lot of these people have lived in such an igloo or I don't know, snow globe of freedom that they don't even understand how the rest of the world works. I mean, if you were to go down through the Horn of Africa, right? I'm sure you could have been locked up by some pirates, right? Who are trying to raid the Red Sea and blah blah blah. And that's just what they're doing. That's just how they're trying to get their money. You know, I'm sure there's a million reasons as to why they're doing it. But people in America have lived in such fortunate and comfortable spaces for the last, I'd say, maybe 50 years
Yeah.
that they haven't really had the test of time. I mean, like my generation, the generation before, we haven't had to fight a war. We didn't have our World War II. We didn't have our Vietnam. You know, there was a Desert Shield, Desert Storm, but that was all voluntary. You know,
And so
we
dig
had-
this, Dylord. So
What's that,
dig
Doc?
this. You just brought up something very important about how people feel about their own country. And here's why: because in schools, the dark side is not discussed. They don't talk about communism as an evil system. They lightly gloss over it. And I was involved in something recently where this German woman was talking about Stalin and about it being an evil regime. And the next time that she came up and talked about it, all of a sudden the name Stalin was out. And it was only about the regime. So the people that were in charge got to her and said, well, we really don't need you to mention this name. And
You don't need to mention the guy who killed 90 million people off of starvation.
Exactly. So that's why I want to address what you were saying. See, because when you talk about people not only having gone through a war, but sugarcoating all of the stuff that is crap out there, therefore they don't appreciate the what they've really got here. That's what I'm really trying to say.
And what I can say to that is, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Tim, but you know, a lot of people in my generation, they don't understand the devastation and fear that communism has brought to them. I mean, you know, you had the Cold War. We're after the Cold War, and the problem is that a lot of people look at it. A lot of rich liberals who have no issue with paying $80,000 a year on college is that they look and they say, "Oh, communism is really right." Well, okay. If communism were true in America, they would come after you first because you're the motherfucker.
That's right.
Who's paying $80,000 a year, which means that your daddy's probably got some money. And if your daddy's got some money, he might as well share it with the rest of us.
That's
You
right.
know,
And also-
I paid through college through renting out rental properties. I did work like that. You know, I'm not of the upper echelon 1%. I'm not in the lower dregs of the cask as well. But, you know, a lot of the rich people who see communism, they think of it as a very virtuous and happy place because they want everyone to feel as if they do. However, the real way of the world does not allow people to act this way. Now,
Yeah.
if everyone could act this way without limitations, then I would be very happy.
I would like to
everyone
bring up
could
something
live the
I'm gonna
way
bring
that
up
I
with you
live-
at every single show for the next 6 months. Queers for Palestine. It's the stupidest fucking thing ever. How
Yeah.
stupid do you have to be? If you're queer in Palestine, they throw you off a building. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Stone you to
You know?
death. I don't know what to
Yeah,
say, man.
rah, rah, rah. It's like shit. It's just, I mean, I can't even wrap my mind around it, you know. And who did I have on last week? I can't remember. It was the same thing, you know. It's like unbelievable. But at any rate, yeah.
Tim was going to say something.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, I just wanted to say the Crusades were actually about money, getting the wealth of the Middle East, capturing that and bringing it back to Europe. And the religion was the cover story on that. But to go a little farther back in these talks, you know, people want to sue the drug companies for making a drug that people can get addicted to. But the drug companies make the drug as a pain reliever to be prescribed, you know, by medical professionals according to certain guidelines. They want to sue firearms manufacturers because some nutbag kills somebody with a firearm somewhere. The accountability for the wrongdoing it is like you're saying. Some people get addicted, and they go out and they look for a source because the medical profession and the pharmaceutical profession won't provide it to them. So they look for a criminal source for that kind of stuff. And China is all too happy to oblige. I read today on Conk, well, it was an article that was, I believe, was on Breitbart that I saw through Conk News that the Chinese and Russians have been trying to get on military bases. They're being found a lot of them get stopped, but some of them get through. When they're found, they say, "Oh, we're just tourists that got lost." I've been on military bases. It's not that easy to just wander onto one.
No,
Uh,
no.
and a lot of these people, you say, well, illegal immigrants sneaking in to do this. No, a lot of these people are here legally, but they're trying to get on these bases. So China is, behind a lot of this. The cartels that, bring in the coke, and that's, a whole different thing. But the fentanyl is just deadly and highly addictive. Chinese are providing that. The heroin is coming from the Golden Triangle. Also, a lot of the heroin comes out of the Middle East, which is, that's destroyed Dearborn. So the misdirection of this stuff, with all the lawyers, we're going to sue the biggest person out here. They're not helping the police go after the drug dealers. Nobody's trying to formulate policies to control this Chinese invasion that's going on. It's, let's go after the drug dealers. Let's go after the gun makers. Let's go after automobile companies because, some guy drove into a crowd. So my solution is we give fentanyl to all the attorneys.
Yeah, there you go.
What was it? I didn't catch that. Would you say at the end?
I
Tim.
said we give fentanyl to all the attorneys.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of
what
that.
What I can say to that is I completely agree with you. I mean, it's not the lawyer's fault for acting this way. That's just how lawyers act. I mean, people call them ambulance chasers, but I mean, they're there after the people who have been hurt, and an ambulance is called.
Mhm.
And with pharmaceuticals or stuff like that, I mean, you have to think it's obvious that they should go after the drug dealers, but take a look at what has caused this entire environment. What has caused people wanting this drug entirely? I mean, I've never tried opium. I will never try opium. Any opioids I'm prescribed if I hurt something, I'm not going to use. And the fact that they're so willing to offer this stuff to individuals and say, oh, here's 30 days worth. You broke your back in half, try this out. The problem with that is that it really allows individuals who are a lot weaker than maybe you or Don or anybody like that is to really fall back into it, and I think the problem is that we allow an environment in which people are able to do this stuff, and then not only we allow an environment to do it, but we also punish people for using this stuff.
Which,
Here's a
in some ways,
theory. Oh,
go ahead, Larry.
Here's a theory. So China pays tens of millions of dollars to Biden Inc., which keeps the border open, which that's how all the fentanyl's getting through.
Mm.
And so then we go back to Dearborn and the example that Jim gave to Dearborn. I'm wondering who is staffing the White House.
Yes,
The people in the
Excellent
White House
point.
that we never see
that's right.
that's controlling this thing, the ones that do eventually come out are, make you wonder and scratch your head because they have a typically Middle Eastern name or something like that. And I'm not racist in that fashion at all, but it begins to make you wonder. And they've learned that to take over, you infiltrate the government of whether it's a city, a state,
Right.
or the country.
Yeah. Now,
And-
can I make an assumption here that we all basically agree that at this point in history, no one's going to take over a country militarily. It's not going to work anymore.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. That's right. So you're right, Larry. The way you take it over is by infiltrating the inside of the government. And
Correct.
that's the thing with the Biden administration. We all know Joe's out of it, so he's obviously not the grand mastermind behind all this shit. But who is? That's the really
No.
big question.
Can I say something, Jim?
Yes, please.
I was going to say that throughout history, the majority of empires that have fallen have been through internal conflict and not through
Right.
external conflict.
Interesting point. Right.
You look at the Roman Empire, the greatest empire to ever exist. They fell due to corruption, due to indulgence, due to individuals who were taking too much and being too greedy, and they eventually fell.
Eroding of
you know,
morals.
It-
Yeah,
Correct.
there's
The
another
same
thing
thing
too,
with
no.
like you can even look back as close as the Cold War. I mean, individuals in the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union collapsed in 91, a lot of people got very rich, and that's why Russia is now considered an oligarchy, because you have a lot of people who are very rich. I mean, you have the oil tycoons, you have
Right.
the liquefied gas tycoons, you have the military tycoons. A lot of these people are from families far gone who were a little bit too greedy. They took a little bit too much. They took a little bit too much from the people, and that's how it collapsed.
And not to mention, Dilord, this is hardly ever brought up. Vladimir Putin is one of the richest people on earth.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
Right.
you
You
talk
know.
about Elon Musk, and you have the competition between Elon Musk and Bezos, but you don't even talk about the Saudi Arabian kings
Right.
or the Qatar kings or the Russian, oligarchs that are in this. I mean, Russia had a very interesting way of transferring between communism and capitalism, and the way that they did it was they basically gave every citizen a ticket, and they said, here's your stock in X company. And the oligarch said, oh, whoa, wait. This company's not worth that much. Let me just pay you $15 for your stock that's worth $20. It's really worth 15, but I'll give you 15 for it. And that's how they consolidated their power.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at Vladimir Putin, whose only reason for invading Ukraine is trying to extend the Russian Empire, to
Yeah.
extend against NATO, which at the end won't work, because even if Ukraine is taken over, I mean, the rest of NATO is going to wipe them out. You have Poland. I mean, you have Scandinavian countries that have never, ever wanted to join NATO, now joining NATO.
Right.
They're now they're suckling at the teat of NATO. I mean, how insane does that have to be, that you're some backwater country that's trying to take over, and now you have some of the strongest economies fighting against you? I mean, America's economy never really did much when we limited the export or import of Russian materials. I mean, yeah, we won't import Russian materials, but we'll buy them from Kazakhstan, who will just import them straight from Russia. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're just in it for the money. I mean, at the end of the day, the guys up top and the girls up top don't really give a shit. They just want money.
Are the girls
That's all
always
it
on
is.
top?
I
only
mean,
the ones with the golden triangle.
when I'm a little tired, yeah, maybe they are up top.
So, Dilord, Conway and you were talking about the Roman Empire, and I don't know if this is an interesting point or not, but Conway and I have talked a lot about this offline. One of the things about the Roman Empire is that one of the reasons they fell is because of you named quite a few, but another one is a feeling of invincibility. When
Yeah.
you're around 2,000 years, you've existed for 2,000 years, and somebody says, this is all going to go to hell. Why should you believe them? It's like, well, it's lasted forever. Of course it's going to last forever,
Of course.
And then you go
get
off and have sex with a pig.
the people who own millions of slaves going, well, my father, my grandfather, my great grandfather, they all own slaves in the same
Yeah.
in the same country. They don't. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And eventually, you get what breaks empires is not the externals. I mean, the Huns were the ones to technically wipe out the Romans, but it was the Visigoths the individuals who were, vassals of Rome or citizens of Rome who walked through and wiped out Rome in 300 AD.
Yeah.
These are the individuals.
Larry, you were going
And
to say something?
Yeah, it's and he's right, but you look at more Spain and all of those countries. When you get generations, when you have people that work hard, earn their money, become successful, then their children, the next generation and the third generation after that, who's living on wealth, who's hiring everybody to do all their work for them, have forgotten how to build anything, how to work, then the whole system collapses.
Hey, Larry, I got to tell you
Doesn't that
this.
sound familiar?
My
It sounds like if like your dad had hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate in New York, and you inherited all that. No, I know. I guess
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Hold it. But I gotta point this out. Larry, my accountant has a lot of really, really wealthy clients. And she says it's a very common pattern. You get one guy, and in the past it's almost always a man. You get one guy who's brilliant and worked like hell and built an empire, right? And
Right.
he leaves it to his kids. Now they saw how hard dad worked, so they generally do a pretty good job maintaining it. And then they leave it to their kids, but all their kids ever saw was money, and then it completely goes to hell. She says,
I mean,
Correct.
you look at the Rockefellers, right? You look at the Rockefellers. Who's the Rockefellers there? The guy in CNN.
"Oh yeah, right,
Yeah,
Anderson
right.
Cooper,
Like
right,
you look at these individuals, and I think Larry's absolutely right on this part. I mean, I have personal friends whose grandparents were immigrants. They moved out here, and their sons and daughters made tons of money. Right? They did very good jobs. They worked very hard, and I respect them very much. And now their generation, my friend, is the one who's living off of that work that they did.
yeah."
And frankly, I mean, I love my friends, but I really hope they get a reality check, because I'm second generation college. My grandparents never went to college. My parents were the first ones out of their entire lineage to go to college. I'm now the second. And I appreciate that, and I respect that, and I'm going to
Well,
work very hard to make sure
Lord.
that my parents are taken care of.
Dylord, both Don and I are both first generation Americans, and so Don's worked really hard. He's made a shitload of money. Me, not necessarily.
I mean,
But-
that's the thing. It's the hustle, and it's the respect of what America should be. It is a land of opportunity. It's a land of where you can sit back and look and say, if I want to work hard enough, I can get there. I can get there.
Well,
I
well,
can
I
get
got it.
there or there or there or any
Don,
other.
tell us about hustling.
Well, what I have to address is, we've been talking about lawyers today, and so one day God was up, just kind of surveying his property up in heaven, and just like looking around that everything is so cool. But he noticed, there's a fence. I don't know if you guys know this. There's a fence between heaven and hell. It's not the up and down. It's actually a lateral thing. And so he was looking, and he said, "Wait a minute, this fence wasn't here. It was further away, and all of a sudden it's here." So he kind of says, "Okay, I know who's up there." So he does his whistle, and it says, "Satan, get over here." And Satan kind of wanders up, and he says, "What? What do you want?" And he says, "You know what I want. This fence here. You moved it so you could have more property. I want you to put it right back so it's the way it used to be." He said, "No, I'm not going to move it." And he said, "Listen, you'd better move it, and is because if you don't, I am going to get a lawyer and I'm going to sue you." And Satan says, "Where are you going to get the lawyers? I got them all."
Is that the punchline?
Well,
Can I tell,
Well, that's too
can I
true to
tell
be
a
a
joke?
punchline.
That was good.
It's joke
wow,
hour. Can
this
I
is
tell
a
joke?
rough crowd.
I
Rough
just
crowd.
No,
And
Don,
with-
I like your joke. I like your joke.
Oh, we like
Tell
you,
can I
Dylord.
tell another joke?
And also, see, Don knew the timing. It was like, that's good that he ended with a joke, so we're going to end it with that, folks. So,
Can I have
you
one
know-
last one, Jim, please?
yeah, sure,
I
go
beg
ahead.
you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I was on the train, right? And I was sitting next to a man on the train, and he pulled out his wallet and he showed me a Polaroid of his wife, right? And he said, "Isn't she beautiful?" And I looked at it, and I looked at him, little side eye, you know. And I said, "You should see my wife. She's an optometrist."
All right. I'm stupid. I'm sorry. I don't
Well,
know.
that's good.
Optometrist is what the one the
All right,
eye
Tyler,
doctor.
that's a
Okay,
hand. That's,
okay, all right, okay.
Give me
I-
some, Larry. Come on.
yeah, there you go. I like that.
There
I
we
wanna point out
go.
that I always pull this out. Conway used to edit the Beaver Hunt, so all right, guys. Thank you very much. This conversation was absolutely fascinating and had nothing to do with what I had planned at all. That's fine. That's great. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I,
that's why I'm
like,
here,
I like
Jim.
that.
Come on.
I want to thank all of you. Dialert, I want to thank you for joining us too. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I saw
Thanks.
your email. I'm
Yeah.
I'm always ready.
Yeah,
I
that's
love your
good.
guys' conversations. I love to add in when I can. I'm sorry
Thank
if
you.
I take over the conversation,
No,
but
no, no,
I
no,
think
no.
you
Don't
all
worry
have
about
really
it.
good points.
Don't worry about it. No, you're not doing that. You're not taking over anything. So, I want to thank all you guys.
Let
So you
me
guys
just
look.
say,
Yeah,
let me
we'll
say
see you.
this,
We'll see you
Tyler.
next at the end of the month.
Yeah,
I have
Tyler,
I'm
I'll just say
taking
this.
a week
Okay,
off. So
at our ages, we might just nod off, and you'll have to take over.
Hey, if you guys are asleep at the wheel, you know,
Right,
someone's
you
got
are
to
the
be
new
piloting.
generation. That's
These
correct.
B2s aren't flying themselves, let me tell you.
All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna bid you adieu. Thank you very much. Well, we'll see you.
Have a
We'll
good
see
night,
you,
guys.
okay?
Sweet
Have a
dreams.
good
Good
one.
night.
Take
Good
care.
night.
That's our panel for this month. That was Larry Newman, Tim Conaway, Don Zaro, and we put on a caller. Dylord has called in before, and he's always interesting too. It was nice to have him in the conversation there. It's also good to have a little youth, you know. It's like, I mean, seriously, we're all in all the other than him, we're all in our 60s. And I want to, you know, Conaway is actually 70, and it's like hard to believe. He looks fantastic, but he is. So yeah, anyway, I kid and I kid. Anyway, that was a lot of fun, and it's really true. They had almost, I mean, even right out of the gate, Conaway starts talking about the Trump trial, and we're off to the races. And I had I try to plan for these things, but seriously, the best plan is to dump it sometimes. So that was pretty cool. So I don't think I have anything for part 3 tonight. I'm not sure. I know I have something for oh, actually I do have something for part 3 tonight. Here's a little conversation. I was going to mention this to the guys. I didn't actually put this in part 3, but it was at the end of the outline about the fact that Google's AI, which they call Gemini, is completely fucking up. And the real amazing thing is this might be, I mean, Google's too big to completely go away, but in terms of the giant revenues, this AI thing they're working on might be the death of this company. Because I don't know if I gotta admit, I haven't seen this yet. I have tried to wean myself off of using Google as search, because I think they're basically at this point. Here's the problem: in 1998, when you start your company, when the um, when the slogan is "Don't be evil," I mean, it was seriously. I was laughing even then. Well, you know what happens when your slogan is "Don't be evil"? You become evil. That's what happens. And unlike the other uh, major tech companies, which were basically driven by single person, Twitter's driven by Elon Musk now, one person. Bezos still has his hand in Amazon, even though he's not the CEO anymore. And Tim Cook definitely runs Apple with an iron hand. But of all those companies, Google is not driven by a person anymore. Serge and Larry basically abdicated. I mean, they're still around and they're still involved, I guess, but they don't run it. And the name of this guy, I can't even remember his name, Pinchar something. their current CEO. He's he doesn't have control of the situation. He doesn't. That's all there is to it. And so the idiots and the crazy people are running the asylum over there, and they can't get their shit together. So now I don't know if you've noticed this. I have not seen it, even though, like I said, I don't use Google for search that much. I do maybe about 20% of the time right now, for various reasons, because I know how to manipulate all this stuff. And that's the reason I choose my search engine depending on what I'm looking for. But I have not seen that supposedly right now the AI is making if you're not searching for a web page and you're actually asking a question, the AI will put at the top of the page, the search results will put what it thinks is the answer. And then it will list various web pages that might help you with what you're looking for. The uh, the problem is that Google gets its 95% of its revenue, which I understand was it last year, last quarter, was $180 billion. That was their revenue for, I think, one quarter, is off the advertising that's hooked up to search results. And you have to give them credit back in the day when they started this, which was 2003. But over that time, they the keyword search buying for advertising is they have mastered this to an incredible extent. It's easy to do. I mean, anybody can do it. You know, you don't have to call a person. You can do it from your desktop. If you run a little shop in, Wheeling, West Virginia, or wherever the hell it is, you can advertise on Google. Anybody can. If you're really savvy about it, you can really do the advertising is extremely effective. But the problem is, if you're going to just answer first of all, this is the first problem. If you're going to just answer questions that people are asking, you can't really benefit from that advertising because what right now the system is set up to run ads against the answers. It only runs ads against looking for web pages. Now you can tweak it so that it could do that. You could, but the other problem is right now the results of those question answers, the results is really, really freaking bad. That's the thing. I mean, people have talked about this. Somebody, and most of these have been posted online. In one instance, somebody's doing a search on pregnancy, and the answer comes back is that pregnant women should drink 2 to 3 beers a day. Then there was one answer that said you should put glue on your pizza to make the crust harder. Another one was goddamn, I can't think off the top of my head. At any rate, there's this is not good. The answer is it was about the fact that you can increase your digestion by eating a few small rocks every day. That's what it was. Now Google's saying that some of these things are hoaxes, and I'm sure some of them are. I'm also sure some of them aren't, because this has been reported very widespread. So it's not just that the thing doesn't work. And also they said, well, we're tweaking this, we're developing it. This has been in development for over a year. And when you think about the number of engineers they have over at that place, I mean, this company is way, way overstaffed at this point. And I think they know it. I mean, and I don't know if that's getting in the way, if you got too many cooks in the kitchen or whatever it is. But the thing is, this is not working. Whereas Bing, their Copilot thing seems to be working much better. And OpenAI, that's not connected with the search engine, they're releasing their ChatGPT version 4, which has gotten a lot of press because Scarlett Johansson said they ripped off their voice. I personally don't think they did. I've heard the A/B comparisons of those two voices. I don't think they're the same. But they're doing okay too. So it seems like I've talked to friends that I have in business, and I've talked to Jeff Meyer about this. He's a good, astute businessman. He's a CEO of Kong News, and he owns and runs several other companies too. That in America, no business basically has ever lasted more than 100 years for all practical purposes. I mean, yes, Sears Roebuck is almost out of business now. Sears Roebuck should have been Amazon. They couldn't get their shit together. They couldn't. I mean, if you go back 100 years, back to 1900, actually, it's probably at this point you're probably talking about 120 years. Sears Roebuck, the Sears Roebuck catalog was to that time period 100 years ago what Amazon is now. And Sears would have had no trouble putting all this crap online. They wouldn't. It never occurred to them. And so they've been running catch up now for the last 30, 40 years, and they're failing, and they're probably going to go out of business. I mean, they're barely surviving right now as a corporation. So my point is, businesses in America don't last forever. And it'll probably happen to Amazon at some point too. Matter of fact, I think that Jeff Bezos has even acknowledged that. He's even talked about the same thing. I'm talking about the fact that it's almost impossible for a business in America to last for eternity. But Google, which has basically only existed since 1998, so what you're talking about, what, maybe 30 years, 28, 27 years? This might be the beginning of the end for them, their dominance. And then you think about what happened in the 1990s too, when the federal government sued Microsoft for a monopoly in web browsers. They gave Internet Explorer away for free with the Windows desktop operating system, and they basically got a monopoly on people using their web browser to search the internet for a while. And that's the real funny part there too. They completely sat on their lead and completely lost it totally. First it was to Firefox, then it was to Chrome. I mean, now Firefox has done a really good job, uh, innovating. They have, but the fact is, you got Chrome run by Google. They're an 800-pound gorilla, and they've done a good job with Chrome, in the sense that it is tuned really to the average web user. Whereas, like, I don't use it because I'm a web developer and I write code and stuff. So I use Firefox because I find it more conducive to the type of development I do. But but most people are on Chrome, and you test Chrome, and the reason most people are on Chrome is because Chrome does make the internet, the World Wide Web, pretty easy to use, and that's really true. But I think this is going to be really interesting. Right now, Google's failing at this, and so I mean, well, first of all, and there's two, like I started this discussion. There's two things going on here. They have to align their business interests, which is the selling of ads, against they're not search results now, against the answers, and on top of that, they got to get better at the answers. And right now they're failing in both those departments. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they get their shit together. But the reason I brought this up is there's a very good possibility they won't, and they will lose their dominance. I mean, right now, technically, they are a monopoly. I mean, from a legal standpoint, according to the antitrust department of the U.S., any business that has more than an 80% market share is technically a monopoly, and they have an 80% market share in search. They do, so they might lose that. Like I said, Microsoft lost it with web browsers 30 years ago. They did. They had it and they lost it. So it'll be really interesting to see what'll happen. So that was the last thing I was going to bring up to the panel. Not really a part 3, but it'll do for tonight. So we're off tomorrow. That's Wednesday, the 29th. We're off Thursday, the 30th. We're coming back. David Strom from Hot Air, the associate editor of hotair.com, is going to be our guest. And then after that, we're taking 12 days off. We're coming back on Monday, June 10th. We're taking all of June 3rd through 8th off because I'm having surgery on the 3rd. That's the reason. So I want to thank you folks for watching and listening. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion we had, because I sure did. And it was really nice to throw a dialer in there too. I want to thank those guys, and I want to thank you for watching. Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie. And good night to you, wherever you are. I'll see you on Thursday night. Take care, everybody.